Good morning. And in keeping with celebrating phenomenal women, joining me this morning is a most inspiring lady, Basani Maluleke, first ever female CEO of a commercial bank. Good morning, Basani.
Good morning, Edith.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So, a bank, but you're a lawyer. Talk to me.
Life is always a strange journey, right? What you wanted to be when you were 16 is never what you end up being when you're 40, I think.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure.
And I think, look, in my teens and certainly when I was younger, I wanted very much to be like my father. I was very much a daddy's girl. My dad was a lawyer. I figured if you're a lawyer, you can change the world.
Yes.
And so I studied law to try and, live up to this ideal that I had of my father. And when I practiced law, I realized quite quickly that this was not the path that I was destined to travel. So I went into banking. So I joined R&B Corporate Finance, which was extraordinary. I learned so much. The learning curve was just so steep. And at the time, people were very proud to say that they're bankers. I'm not entirely sure that that's still the case today. It was before the 2009 financial crisis, and it was just wonderful. Learned so much. And then shortly after 2009, I went off to do an MBA at Kellogg in the US, and I realized that banking, or at least investment banking, wasn't where I wanted to be. So when I came back, I then went into retail banking, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Wow. What I'm hearing from you is that it's never too late to make a dramatic change, to find your way.
Yeah.
And often we start somewhere, life takes us through twists and turns, and then we find ourselves in a completely different space.
I think that's exactly right. And I think also, particularly now, and there's all this, there's all these ideas about how the younger generations are going to have multiple careers in one lifetime. And I often get very anxious about that for them, right? In the sense that imagine how much learning you're going to have to do throughout your life to be able to continue to reinvent yourself. And I think the key thing for us now is to figure out how we empower our teams, how we empower our children and ourselves to continue to evolve so we remain relevant in a world that's changing as fast as this one is.
And even though the world is changing, some things remain.
Yeah.
I mean, I struggled in my career being a woman in the C-suite,
right?
Surrounded predominantly by males.
Yeah.
Do you find that banking still has a stigma of being very male-oriented? Do you find that, or do you find that it's transforming?
Both. So, sometimes I find myself in all male rooms.
Yes.
And I'll get home and be surprised that, oh my gosh, I was the only woman, right? Because the meeting goes well, no one tries to objectify you, and it feels like you're having a conversation that's important and things happen. And other times you're in a room and you know from the moment you walk in that you're the only woman. And people make it, they almost do it deliberately, but perhaps it is subconscious, right? This idea of constantly making sure that you're not ostracized, but you're othered. People refer to you constantly as being maternal or having expectations of you to look after them, which is really frustrating. But fortunately, that happens less and less often. And it makes me more and more optimistic that people are starting to understand the importance of accepting people for who they are and for the contribution that they can make, as opposed to trying to consistently objectify, belittle, humiliate.
We met on our fellowship program some years ago, and we learned about leadership in the good society. How do you find what we learned during the fellowship program in being implemented in your now journey? Do you find that there is leadership in the good society, or do you think that that's still an ideal we're striving for?
So one of my favorite people in the whole world is Barack Obama.
Oh,
and for me, he brought to life this idea of building a perfect union, of trying to perfect something, of striving for better. So I don't think we'll ever get to the point where we have a perfect society, much as it would be wonderful if we did. I think it's something we're going to have to consistently strive for. And I think what's wonderful about the Aspen Leadership Global Network and about the African Leadership Initiative is that it starts to help you to build a picture of what that perfect society could look like. It gives you a true north. It forces you to think more deeply about what challenges different people are facing that either, make them better aligned to what you think would be a good society or not. And as a result, how to engage with those people and learn from them and grow from them. So, I mean, I'm so grateful for having gone through the process, that program. I think it's helped me to think much more broadly about what is possible, and to think also very differently about where I'm probably wrong about what my view of the world is, and where I can learn from other people to try and have a better view of what is possible.
You've also done some amazing transformation work. I know that transformation is a passion point of yours. Tell me some of the initiatives that you've been involved in, and what can people who aspire, young people who are aspiring to climb the corporate ladder, what can they learn from your journey?
Sure. That's a difficult question. I suppose the first thing that comes to mind, particularly because we've just come out of August, is this journey is not linear.
Yeah.
There are lots of things that are going to go wrong, but hopefully there'll be many more things that go right. So I think the key is not to become discouraged, and to build the resilience you need to continually overcome obstacles, because there will be lots. I think for me, that's been one of the lessons. And to your question about transformation, I really like that idea. So often it is said that women will advocate for other women, but not necessarily for themselves. There's the idea that if you educate a girl child, you educate a village. There's this idea that women will look after aging parents, whereas, their brothers are unlikely to do the same thing. Women are
from the responsibility.
Right. Exactly that. And I think that's the thing, right? If you embrace that idea and you make it part of just what you do, what you are about, to help other women to succeed, to help all people, in fact, not just other women, I think it makes the journey a lot easier. You have a lot more people who are there to support you. And I think that's an important part of what I think we should all embrace.
I think leaders such as yourself inspire me, because you're so hands-on in terms of everyday people. If there was one piece of practical advice that you would give to your younger self, what would that be?
Look, I was a very impatient younger self. So and probably a younger self who was very hard on herself. So my advice would be specific. I think the key is to be more patient, to accept that, to believe that the journey will take you to where you need to go, and not to be as hard on yourself. I think that's the main thing. Almost believe in the journey. It doesn't mean that therefore things will magically happen. You do still have to work very hard. But I think, it's about building inner resilience, and knowing that, even in the face of things that go wrong, you will arrive where you are meant to be.
Whenever I talk to you, something new has happened. You've gone a bit further in your journey. And that is so inspirational. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and for sharing pearls of wisdom for the audience. I'm pretty sure everybody took something out of what you had to say, and will be left inspired after just, listening to you.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure having you with us.
I appreciate that.